Good morning, guys. Today's video, we're not going to be doing anything related to painting. We're going to take care of this Hemi Tick I got going on under here. I got to remove that inner fender well, pull the exhaust manifold on both sides, and replace the gasket and studs. I contemplated going with shorty headers, but not this time. Soon we will have a smooth running Hemi without the tick, I'm hoping. Stay tuned. Alright, so one thing I've just learned is being that you're going to be on your knees a lot leaning over this tire. I'm lucky enough to have the truck that's lifted up, so I get a little bit extra room in there to work with, as opposed to the stock height guys. But I threw a blanket down for my knees and I threw one over that tire because I'm going to be leaning on that thing quite a bit, as I can see. Alright, one more bolt to go, still on the passenger side. I'm sure you guys out there that have turned wrenches before know this little secret, but I want to show you anyway, just in case for the few that are watching that don't know it. So I got to get to that bolt, and it's a 10 millimeter. So I'm going to put my 10 millimeter on, and then I'm not going to have enough leverage with that one wrench. So I need to hook another wrench in the back of it to give me more leverage. So if you take any wrench, I can do this one-handed, hook it into the open end part, and now you got a super long 10 millimeter wrench. Gives you more leverage. Just give her a little love. Oh boy, that's tight. All right, I'm gonna need both hands on this one. Got the heat shield out. And from what I can see, I've got 3 broken studs on this side. But I think I'm going to get lucky, because you could see the stud is only broke off a little bit inside the exhaust manifold. So once this manifold comes off, that stud will be sticking out, and I could grab it with some vice grips, work it both directions, and hopefully break it loose without breaking it off. So these 2 back studs here, these 2 are broke, and then there was one on the front. I broke the bottom one off trying to get that nut off for the heat shield. That one had to be backed up with a wrench because the bolt was trying to come out instead of the nut off of the bolt. The whole bolt was coming out and it was twisting the heat shield all up, so I had to stick a wrench behind it. That was a little bit of a job, but as of right now, we don't have any blood yet. So like my dad used to always tell me, nothing's gonna go right until you start getting some blood going. So I hope that ain't the case, but we'll keep going. I've already sprayed the studs and bolts that I can see with Croil. Once again, this stuff here, I'm a PB Blaster fan myself, but I've had this can, a guy at work gave it to me, and I've used it occasionally. It smells good too. I think it's just automatic transmission fluid. I won. No blood yet. Okay. Passenger side log manifold is out, and this is my redneck way of seeing if it's warped. So I lay it on the table, and I got a little bit of rockage, but I don't know if that's from if the table isn't level or what. But honestly, from what I've seen online, one guy had an 1/8 inch of gap on one side. I'm happy with the way it sets right now. I'm just going to put the new gaskets on. These are the new gaskets. They're fairly thick. Those will crush down and take up any gaps, I'm assuming. So, and what I was thinking about doing is sort of port matching these to the gasket. Once I put my new gasket up there, I'm going to see how they, if I have any material on the inside of where that gasket sits, I'm going to take my die grinder and just port match that a little bit to the gasket. That's just my OCD kicking in. So there's a lot of meat in here, and I'm really surprised at how open they are. I thought they were really restrictive inside, but I mean, this side's ugly as hell. But this side you can actually see how it's flowing the exhaust towards the back. I mean, I'm assuming Chrysler knows what they're doing. So I thought I remember reading somewhere that these don't flow that bad actually compared to shorty headers, but I haven't actually looked on any dyno sheets for that. But let's look on the inside. Got this little vane there to help direct the exhaust flow. See? Anyway, the old log manifolds are going back on, so stay tuned. All right, this side's done. I've is that the right side? Yeah, okay. So sorry about that. So my idea of port matching didn't even really need to happen because they've pretty much already done that with these manifolds. There's no meat hanging into the breezeway areas here, but I did take my rotary air tool with a sanding stone and just took off any burrs that were sticking up, kind of smoothed out any castings that I could find just to mentally satisfy myself. But one thing I did notice, I want to show you guys, is in the collector, you kind of see the shape. There was like a round area here. I'm assuming it's a casting for an O2 sensor or some sort of sensor. Mine didn't have it, so this area was raised up like an 1/8 inch, just causing a huge restriction. I mean, massive. I'm probably going to gain like 30-40 horsepower just from sanding that down. And if you guys believe that, then you don't need to be watching my channels. But anyway, on that note, please like and subscribe. I've just wire brushed these gasket surfaces, and and I also used my rotary air tool with a cup wheel and just kind of cleaned off where the head bolts will go. So it's pretty rusty. I didn't want any loose rust sitting here underneath the new bolt. When it goes down, it could give me a false torque reading, I guess you could say. But anyway, this one's going back on soon, but I'm going to eat lunch now. All right, so I got lucky. None of the bolts are broken off below the surface of the cylinder head. So yay for that. I'm still going to clean up these gasket surfaces, and you can clearly see the carbon buildup around where this gasket was blown out because both of these studs were broke, as you can see. That's the only one on this side though, is the back, which from what I'm seeing online is ridiculously common. So I've already grabbed those 2 studs with some vice grips, and they're pretty easy to get out. So I'm going to take those out, clean these gasket surfaces up, and then get this manifold put back on. And I like to use NIC's compound on the threads, the copper based one. I don't have it here, it's in my cabinet, but even if I did have it out, the label has fell off years ago. But it just looks like a bunch of ground up copper shavings in a pasty substance. So I put that on there. Once again, that's probably just for mental reasons, but I don't know. I use it on lug nuts and everything. So anything I don't want seizing where I can't get it back off in the future, when there's 2 different metals used, I like to use that. Even on steel to steel, I use it. Anyway, next time you see this side will be on. Alright, got a tip for you guys. On the passenger side, front of the cylinder head, when you're putting your manifold back in, it gives you 2 bolts that you can start to hold the gasket up, so you can just kind of sleeve your manifold onto those bolts. One of them is this one here. There's a slit here in the manifold. You put your bolt in the head, through the gasket, just barely start it, and then you can just slide your manifold over that bolt through this slot. Yeah, that sucks, because once you get that all in and the rest of the bolts started by hand, ready to start torquing them, except for this bolt you didn't get in yet, that bolt won't go in if the manifold is in place already. So when the manifold is loose, you have to put that bolt in. They should have made that the starting bolt. So make sure you get that bolt in the hole, because it can't fall out once it's in. Once it's in place like it is now. Make sure you get that bolt in that manifold hole and touching the cylinder head before you proceed to put the rest of the bolts in. Otherwise you have to take them all back out to get this one started, because the frame is in the way. The bolt is too long to make the turn to go into the manifold. I hope you understand what that means. Anyway, continuing on. The manifolds call for 18 foot-pounds. 18 foot-pounds of torque. The bolts, and there's no way in hell that you're going to be able to fit this in there. And if you put a wobble on it or an extension, it's going to change the end result and the torque that you're applying to that bolt. So this is how I do it. I put an old bolt in the vise, and I set this to 18 foot-pounds, and I'm using about a 6-inch wrench under there. So I'm grabbing it here. Don't put your thumb up above it. Keep it on this handle, because this is the part that wobbles. Actually, I got it the other way. So even though this is on the loosening setting, I still get a physical feel of what 18 foot-pounds is. That way when I go under there with the wrench, I could ika, and I know that 18 foot-pounds is not very much. And if you've ever actually torqued spark plugs, you know what I'm talking about. You put them in and you're thinking, oh my god, this thing's just going to fall out. But 18 foot-pounds, so I'm going to go with that, and maybe after a few drive cycles I'll get back under there and re-torque them, but I doubt it. So I'm going to go with 18 and hope they stay in. Got that oil burning off, penetrating oil, but no leaks. That's good. Driver's side's next. Driver's side inner fender well's out, and after looking, I think I only have one broken bolt on this side, which yeah, that top back bolt. I'm still going to take them all out, put a new gasket, just like the other side. Alright, so it was too good to be true, guys. But I'm not complaining. But one of the studs is broke off, and as you can see, maybe, where is it? It is broke off, flush, a little countersunk into the cylinder head. So, and you can see I've had an exhaust leak there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to attempt, is I'm going to use these Grab It extractors. I've had these for years. I used to use them on brass shower door hinges or stainless door hinges. When you have a stripped out Allen head or something, it would actually grab you drill it out and it grabs that head of the screw. They worked very well in the hotel. I'm going to try it on these, but instead of using the built-in drill bit that they have, I have a Cobalt drill bit. I'm going to drill first, and if this doesn't work, I'll show you my other method, which I've seen this online and it worked amazing. But if you look right down there, got a link in wire feed that I'll spot weld a nut onto that broken stud and just turn the nut, get the stud out. So stay tuned. Alright, so I was able to drill a hole in it. I drilled, I don't know how I got it that centered, but I drilled in about 1/8 of an inch deep, and now I'm going to take this extractor bit that I have in my impact, and you got to remember these turn counterclockwise. Obviously you're taking the bolt out, so I'm going to see, doing this live here. I'm not really straight on with it. I wish I was more straight on. Let's see what happens. Might not even work. Yeah, it's just spinning. I think I need to set it. I got to get straight on with it. The hole wasn't deep enough, so we're going to drill a little more. I think my battery's dying. Let's give that a shot. Let's see. Yeah, I know, I use Ryobi tools. They've been good to me though. Sorry about the camera, guys. This sucks. Okay. Extractor side. Oh yeah, I feel it grabbing now. I don't know if I should just put a wrench on that or something. I really want to get my impact on it, so I think if I take this adapter out, just kind of set it in there and see. Yeah, it fits good enough. Alright, let's try this again. Do this without dropping anything or zoom out some. Okay. Oh, is that right? Tiny liquid? Okay, wrong way. Right way now. Try to finagle the impact up here without the bit falling out. It really wants to fall on me. Come on. Come on. Whoop, right there. Look at that shit. Okay. Come on, baby. Money. Okay, I'll show you what I'm doing, guys. So, cleaned up the gasket surfaces, but with my rotary tool and grinding wheel, so you can see the exhaust flows this way through the log manifold. So anything on this edge, I'm kind of smoothing off anything that sticks up. It's pretty rough. I mean, it probably isn't going to make any difference, but oh, there. And then this is one that I haven't done that. So you can see that casting, whatever that is, it sticks up right there. And then in further, there's a, oh, you want to see it? Pretty aggressive bump right here. Right there. I'm taking that off too. And smoothing off this edge here. right there a little bit. Got a ledge. Anyway, okay, she's all ready to go back on. I'll show you. You can see that I hit the surfaces here where the bolts are gonna set up against that manifold. I didn't want any loose rust under them when I torqued them down to my feeler style torque wrench, because there's no way you can fit a torque wrench in there. And I know that some ASC mechanics are gonna know how to, but hey, I'm not one of those. So cleaned up the surface areas here with a wire brush, and any burrs that were sticking up in the ports, I reached in and grabbed them with a die grinder. And then, like I said, this area here where the exhaust will flow through around this corner, it's nice and smooth right there now. You know, I'll probably feel it in the seat, of course. And then I wanted to show you the area that had the, oops, sorry, you're sideways. The area that had that sticking up is all smooth now. So, and the cylinder head itself has been all cleaned up with a wire wheel. All the mating surfaces are clean. We're gonna go ahead and throw it in there. It's funny because I was dreading this side because everyone's saying that the driver's side is harder to get to because of the steering column. Well, I get that, but the motor sets to the passenger side in the frame, so you got a lot more room between this frame and the cylinder head as you do on the passenger side. So I think it's actually an easier side to work on. Yeah, the steering column is in the way for a couple things, but it's not as much of a pain in the ass as the other side with the cylinder being so close to the frame rail. Anyway, we'll get it thrown in there and put her back together. Well, she's all done, guys. Just got to put this inner fender well back on, but she looks good. New gaskets, everything went smooth other than that one bolt, but I got lucky and it came right out without having to weld it. Gonna start her up here in a minute and see how she sounds. See if that Hemi Tick is gone.